So we move on to the business of today, which is conditional ternary operator. That's the question mark. Yeah, that's what it's denoted by. So now what does this do? This operator checks a condition. If the condition is true, it returns a first result, and if the condition is false, it returns a second result. So with an example, you would understand how this really works, right? I have an expression like this: 8 is less than 90. Let me say less than or equal to 90. And when we evaluate this, in fact, let's evaluate it. So C out, so that we get to see what the output is going to be, right? And we get 1 here. That means true, right? And 8 is less than 90. So this is a true statement, right? So if this is a true statement, then we use the question mark here. So that's the ternary operator, right? So this is the condition, then with this operator over here. So we are following the format with this operator. Then we have result 1, and result 1 is going to be this value over here, 8. You always use what the pieces of conditions that you are comparing. So you have a first condition here on the left of the relational operator, and you have a second condition here on the right of the relational operator. So this will be result 1, and this will be result 2, right? So we put 8 over here as result 1, then with a semicolon, and then 90. So if this condition evaluates true, which it does, then result 1 will be returned, so would return 8. But if this condition evaluates false, then the second result, which is 90, would be returned. Let me clear this so an error doesn't get thrown. So we run this to see what the output is going to be, and we get a 1 over here. So, all right, so let's put this in a variable. So that's the problem. So we put this in a variable, and since we are expecting an integer output, that means we are expecting either an 8 or a 90. This is an integer, so the variable is going to be an integer. Let's call it result, right? And let's equate it to the entirety of this expression. Cut, and we paste it over here, right? And then we print out result, so we see what is going to be outputted. So we run this, and we then get 8 over here, right? So take note, you have to put it in a variable before you can get the correct output, right? So that's it for this one. If we make this result false, let's say 5, which we know is going to evaluate false, so 90 would get returned. So we run this, and we have 90, right? So we can also use expression. So 8 minus 7 times 2. So this is going to be 7 times 2, which is 14. So 8 minus 14 is going to be negative 6, right? So this evaluates to negative 6. So that's essentially negative. What we are doing essentially is negative 6 and comparing it to, let's say, less than or equal to. And we want to put another expression here. Let's say 5 plus 4 dividing anything, dividing 2. Let's just make it quite easy. So 4 dividing 2, and the order of operations here, we'll look at it at the end of this video, is BODMAS and PEMDAS, the one which is mostly used in mathematics, right? So it's the same thing over here. So it's before dividing 2, which is going to be 2 plus 5, and that's 7. So essentially it's going to run down to negative 6 is less than or equal to 7. And we know that this is true because negative 6 is less than 7. So we run this to see what the output is going to be. So since this is true, we should be expecting, whoops, now we have to put the results over here. Let me just leave 8 over here. Let's run it and see. Right, so now the challenge here is result 1 is going to be an expression, and result 2 is going to be an expression as well. But then we can't, we can put the expression there, which is going to evaluate to negative 6 and return it like that. But there is another way of doing it. So what we can do is we can change this thing that we want to output. So if this expression entirely evaluates to true, then we want to output, we can print a statement that, let's just say expression 1, and then if it's false, then we return expression 2. But then if we are returning either expression 1 or expression 2, as you might have noticed, this is a data type of a string because this is enclosed in double quotation marks. So this variable that we are returning over here can't be an integer. So in that case that we can't always keep track of things this way, we can use the auto keyword so that whatever data type that will be returning over here, the computer would find out that data type and then assign it to this one without us explicitly stating it. Right, so let's run this to see what the output is going to be. So since condition 1, since this entire expression evaluates true, then we should be getting expression 1. Right, so we have expression 1 over here as the output. So the entire concept of using this is that you have this condition where there's this A, and then you have the operator over here. Then we have condition B with the question mark and then A, B as such, this way. So when you evaluate this and this entire expression is true, then you want to return A, or else if this entire expression is false, then return B. So that's the whole concept of this, right? So you compare two expressions, you compare two values, you compare two variables. If the first one is true, then you want the computer to run it to return that one. Probably when you return it, you want to take it as a variable and use it in another way. When we get to functions, you see that we can return variables and pick that variable from one function and use it in another. So in such cases, you might want to use this ternary operator to compare two values and get the one which is true. If it's true, you return that one and use it, right? So that's the basic application of this one. Okay, so now the next section is the comma operator, and this is used to separate two or more expressions that are included where only one expression is expected. Right, so let me illustrate this with integers, then after that with a discount example that I came up with. Okay, so let's declare a variable A and it's an integer, right? And then we have a second integer B, or we can use the auto keyword here as well so that the computer gets the data type automatically. But one disadvantage of this is that it gives the computer a lot of work to kind of get the data type, but when we explicitly state it, it reduces the power that it will use to get it, so it kind of make the program run smoother, right? So this is not advisable if you have to avoid it. So but for the sake of tutorials, let me just use it so that you guys will get the concept behind it. So we have another integer auto B, and it's going to be equal to, so over here we are initializing A now, so A is equal to 2, and then comma, we have A plus 2. Now let me put A is equal to 8 so that you get the difference, right? So let me go ahead. Let's just go over what this line of code does. So this line of code creates an integer, a variable, sorry, it creates a variable B. And what value is B going to store? This end result is going to be an integer, but we did not explicitly state it here. We want the computer to get it itself. Right. Now what we did over here is we initialized A, we gave it a value of 8. Then after that, we then passed that value to B. We assigned to B, so B will now be A plus 2. Another way I can do this is, let me say A is equal to 8. Let me do it the normal way so that you guys would kind of get the intuition behind this. So I'll clear this and have B is equal to A plus 2. So let's run this. Let's have C out of B so that you guys will get what I mean. So when we run this, we should get a result of 10, right? So we see 10 output over there. Now, using the comma operator, I can clear out this and have A declared explicitly here. A is equal to 8, then I'll come comma, this is where the comma comes in, then with A plus 2, then I'll clear this line. So I don't want to be declaring it, I don't want to initialize it in one step. I I don't want to initialize it on a separate line. I want to initialize it here and then perform this operation and assign it to B. So let's go ahead and print A first, then end line before we print out B. Right, so let's run this line of code and see what is going to be returned. So we should put a semicolon over there. Right, so A is 8 and B is 10, as we can see over here. So what this did was we assigned a value of 8 to A. That's why the 8 was returned over here. Then after this assignment, we then performed this operation. So 8 plus 2, that's equal to 10. And then we then said B should be equal to that value, right? We could have done this in several lines, but we chose to do it in one line. So that's the use of the comma operator, right? So we just go ahead and comment out all of these and move on to the next section. Okay, so I made a comment that I should use a discount example so that you guys will get the intuition better. So I'll go ahead and do that, and I'll define a constant, and I'll use this format define, which we have learned already. Define rate is 0.1. So let's have an integer price. We can make it a float, it doesn't matter. Let me make it a double, and we want to name it price is equal to $100. Let's keep it whole numbers so that we can keep track of the numbers. Now we have float discount, and we want the discount to be price times the rate, right? Whatever price you have multiplied by the rate so that you get the discount you're applying on that product. So we then have an auto, and we want to call this price to pay. So after the discount, after applying the discount, how much do we pay? We then pay price minus discount, whatever the discount was. So that's how much we pay, right? So I hope you get the intuition behind this. So we go ahead and then, or let me just run over it again. So what we did over here is we created a constant which is called rate. So every product in that shop theoretically has a discount of 10%. So when you go and pick a product which is $100, you get a discount of 10% applied on it. And what that means is that when you when you find 10% of 100, you get a value of $10. So that means for every product that you pick, you would, let's say for this product it's $100, so you have $10 discount price, right? So you just pay $90 for the product. That's what this line of code does. So when you apply the discount, then you subtract the discount from the price that you were to pay, so that you then get the real price to pay to the cashier. So we go ahead and print out this price to pay so that we see that we know that we are on the same page. So price to pay. So I'll go ahead and run this. Whoops, I should put a semicolon over there. Oops, sorry. So price to pay is equal to price minus discount. Sorry about that. Right, I hope we're good to go now. So we should be getting a 90, right? So the 90 was returned over here. Good. So now, how do we use the comma operator here? How does it come into play? So now what I want to show you guys is, now you can see over here that this is price minus discount, right? Good. So what we can do is, let me comment out this, but then I'll follow its syntax down here, right? So what we can do is we can use the auto keyword again, then price to pay is equal to, you can pause this video and do it on your own, then you come back and check if you want to, right? So auto price to pay is equal to, so we should have a bracket and then a comma between the two expressions. So now the first expression is the discount, so we want to say discount is equal to price times rate, price times whatever rate that you have, right? So this is discount. So what this will do is it will first calculate the discount, then after that calculation it would then subtract the discount that it has already calculated from the price, and then assign it to the value, assign it to the variable price to pay, so that we then pay that price. So I'll go ahead and clear this so you guys get the real picture of this, and then clear this up to here. So what we just did over here is initialize the variable discount, and then as we declared the variable discount, but then we initialized it over here, we assigned a value to it over here, and then we stored that value and then used it over here, and then we assigned this entire result to price to pay. So it's just the same thing that we did up here, right? So we run this code and we should get the same result, right? And we have 90 over here. So the choice again is yours, so you can choose whatever way that you want to write your code.